Sisters and brothers, we talked earlier when we were talking about different forms of prayer. We talked about contemplation. Last time when we were together, talking about Lectio Divina, we talked about contemplation. Today I'd like to talk about contemplation or contemplative prayer in a particular form, that is centering prayer. Now, centering prayer in recent history of the church has caused both great excitement and great concern. There are those who believe that centering prayer is really the result of a Sufi mystical tradition that has been adapted into the church, and so maybe in some way is tainted. Truly, centering prayer had its origins if we go back to John Cassian in the 2nd century, 3rd century of the church, one of the early church fathers, matured in the history of the church until it was recovered after the Second Vatican Council as a way for us to pray. In the 14th century, a great English anonymous author who wrote The Cloud of Unknowing, this magnificent work on what it is to be in a place where we don't know, but we are with God. In darkness, there is the light. St. John of the Cross, with his great teachings on contemplative prayer, all in some way lead us towards the experience of centering prayer. Now, what do we mean by centering prayer? Centering prayer is a fairly simple prayer, but also a very challenging prayer. It might be prayed 20 minutes at a time. For some who are really particularly skilled, maybe 30 minutes. Usually it's not recommended to be more than 30 minutes twice a day, or 20 minutes twice a day. Or if one schedule allows it, only once, 20 minutes once a day. The idea of the prayer is we begin as we would any time when prayer, begin with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the sign of the cross, and then to become silent. Now, the human mind is constructed in such a way that we can never not have thoughts. We're always thinking, always popping up with new ideas or old memories and stories that come into our mind. But the idea for us is to sit still and to allow ourselves to be stilled over time in such a way that there might be a moment in which God reaches out to us to make us aware of his presence. God, of course, is with us because of the Holy Spirit in baptism, that the Spirit is with us. It's for, again, as we talked about in contemplation, that opportunity to break through. So what do we do in that 20 minutes? One of the things that's recommended is, if you're like me, I have a bit of a mind that will wander with great energy. And so in centering prayer, we're encouraged to have a word or not more than a 2-word phrase: Holy Spirit, Jesus, peace, longing. And to use that word as a place to clear my thinking. So as I'm sitting in this 20 minutes and all of a sudden here comes down the river, here comes this thought, and I'm thinking about that meeting yesterday. Well, I gotta let go. It's not to fight with the fact that I'm having these thoughts, just to say, Jesus, and let that thought go. And the more and more we do that, the more we practice this prayer, the less frequently we are disturbed. Effectively, we're becoming detached from our thoughts. It's not that we don't think, it's that we're no longer owning our thoughts and letting our thoughts own us, because we're creating a space in stillness for God to be present and speak to us in a particular way. It is a venerable old tradition of prayer. It's one that's worthy of practice. There's some great resources. Open Mind, Open Heart by Father Thomas Keating, a wonderful work on centering prayer. Books by Basil Pennington on centering prayer. I encourage you to look, to explore, to be able to look at those and to consider what it is that God may be calling us to, and it may be greater silence.
Please like, subscribe, and comment below. God bless you.